What's up, Bills fans? How you doing? I know it's been a while. I've been meaning to come on here, and I know it's been too long. It's so nice to see the team back on the field, back on the turf at Highmark Stadium. I'll forever, I'll forever call it Rich Stadium. I don't care how many um, names it gets, but it's really nice to see the team out there. The white Let me tell you something. The white face masks look amazing. It's amazing what that does to the uniform as a whole. But it's really nice to see the guys running around out there and just back on the field. That's part of the thing that sucks about the game against the Chiefs is we're here in early June and you realize how long it's going to be till you finally even see the team in some way, shape, or form back on the field, let alone again in a real game. And 5 months, and it's really been a long time. So yeah, and the title of this defensive line, I think the defensive line is the key to this entire season. I believe we finally realized that we have a quarterback. I think we finally have solved that puzzle. And the reason I think they know internally that the defensive line is the key is look at the additions over the last 3 years, 4 years. I mean, 18, they bring in Starr, they bring in Trent Murphy, and I believe another guy. Before that, it was a pretty just pedestrian group of guys. I could think of some of those guys starting in Jacksonville, and I don't even think they're in the league anymore. Cap Cappy was on the field for the for the Bills in that playoff game against the Jaguars. Shaq Lawson's moved on. That there's been so many different guys, but they've added so many new guys, particularly this offseason. It really tells you that they know, look, this unit has to be right. This unit has to make plays for us, and they have to be able to be difference makers. And it's just not in the sack game; it's the run defense too. There's been too many stretches in seasons within the last 3 seasons, in particular, well, two, I'll say, because they've been successful in the last two, um, where they've been gashed, and it's been for a period of games. And that can't happen. You can't get gashed against a Rams team with a turnstile, makeshift offensive line, a rookie running back, and a noodle arm quarterback. You can't get gashed against teams like that. What's going to happen when you play even a Chiefs team who's so pass heavy, getting gashed to them to the tune of 200 plus yards, and you pretty much have no chance to stop it. But you look at the additions that they've brought in. I've been talking with some Bills fans the last few days and how important that this unit's going to be to this team, make or break. You have Ruseo, Basham, that's off the top. AJ Epinesa last year, and a lot of talk about him changing his body the last couple of days. We've talked about that before. I've been down in weight before because I wanted to look a certain way. And let me tell you, you lose a lot of strength when you go down in weight. And I'm not near as big as that guy. So I can't imagine what he went through trying to be a college player, dropping in excess of 30 plus pounds, and then try to be an NFL defensive end with no time to prepare. That must have been extremely, extremely hard. Um, their biggest draft resources have been allocated to defensive line in the last 3 drafts, from Ed Oliver to Epinesa to this year. So that tells you all you need to know about that unit, what they felt about that unit, and they're going to get caught in a numbers game. And I believe it's going to happen sooner than later. Everybody assumed, like I thought as well, Mario Addison kind of looks like the odd man out. Yes, no, maybe so. But the more I looked at it, the more I said, you know what? I don't know about that. I don't know if he's the odd man out. I don't know if he's the guy that's going to automatically just be the odd man out. And on the surface, it might seem like that. But in reality, I think that if you look at the production of him and a veteran like Jerry Hughes, over the last 5 years. Obviously, the bulk of the time has been spent with the Bills, Addison with Carolina. But you look at the familiarity he's had with Carolina, the type of player they're similar. And I did a look at their stats, and I told this to another Bills fan, and they were pretty floored. I'll tell you guys. This is Mario Addison, Jerry Hughes head to head. Tackles for loss, 45 for Addison, Hughes 43. Forced fumbles, Hughes 7, Addison 8. QB hits, 64 for Addison, QB hits for Hughes, 60. But this is where the big disparity comes in. This is 5 years. Jerry Hughes, 26 sacks in the last 5 seasons. Mario Addison, 44 sacks. That's a lot. And our biggest moments where we've fallen short in games, and 3 games in particular, the Chiefs game, the Arizona game, and the Houston playoff game, key moments in those games, we just could not get the quarterback on the ground. Had the quarterback, chasing the quarterback, just weren't unable to wrap up, unable to finish. And that has to be just completely maddening for McDermott, Bean, Leslie Frazier, hence the dearth of guys that they've added. And a guy like Ife Adoba, the guy would have been tied for the league, tied for the Bills lead in sacks last year with 5, which is not a lot. But they added him, which I just think that when you look at the number of guys that they've added and the guys they're not going to move off of, you're not going to see them move off of Epinesa. You're not going to see the 2 guys that they added. And the body types that they've added are bigger than what you've been used to seeing with the Bills. We always thought the cold front, they were not a good run defensive unit. And I think the Bills they're an 11-man run defensive unit, not a 7-man. Some teams don't want their secondary tackling. They're like, just focus on the pass defense. You guys can play with your backs to the quarterback. Our front 7 is responsible. For the Bills, that's not the case. The corners have to tackle, the safeties have to come up and support, and the defensive line has to hold up. And we've seen a lot of things. The video of Starr, for example, there was a lot of speculation because he wasn't at one Bills drive. Oh, he's getting fat. Is the chat working? Because I don't see anybody in the chat, but maybe I need to fix this, because the chat, I don't see the chat working at all. Let me oh, there it is. What's up, Eric? How you doing, bro? I don't know why the chat was dead. The chat looked like yeah, I did, bro. Thanks. Yeah, 61 and 73 Bill Belichick, 72 Bill Belichick. I have to say that over and over again. The chat wasn't coming up. I had to click. I have no idea what the hell that was, but their size is a lot bigger. They're a lot bigger. 270 Ruseo right now, 260 Epinesa, 250, between 255, 260, and Basham's 275, whereas Addison, 260, Hughes low 250s. Trent Murphy was around 150, not a very good athlete, kind of stiff in the hips, not explosive. So they've added guys. To me, the biggest thing that they have to do is run defense first, and then the pass rush, that'll take care of itself. But batted passes, tip passes, getting your hands up, like Ruseo, there's no reason that guy shouldn't have at least 10 batted balls this year with that length, that size, his hand size, being able to reach, maybe, get to a ball where a other defensive end couldn't. They should definitely be able to be better. String runs out, to the sideline, make guys come back inside where there's guys waiting for the tackle. So I don't think that their run defense, and you add Starr back into that mix, and he looked good. Granted it was like a 15-second clip, but he looked lean, he looked fast. He didn't look, there was just, because he wasn't there, people thought, well, he hasn't been there for almost a year and a half. He's probably overweight. What has he been doing? He looked good. He looked good. And I think you add him into that mix and just being an unselfish guy, keeping the linebackers clean. I think the sky's the limit. And the biggest addition for the Bills, this team as a whole, but in particularly the defense, is its fans. Getting the fans back in the building. Getting you guys, some of you guys will be there, back in the seats. I know Eric will be there, and hopefully Oliver makes a huge jump. They need one of these guys to be that guy. Whether it's Oliver, whether it's Basham, Ruseo, Epinesa, they need one of these guys to all of a sudden become a guy. Whether he's getting in between 8 to 12 sacks a year, they need one. And if 2 of them do it, then it's phenomenal. But the fans coupled with the numbers at the defensive line, I think that's what really puts the Bills over the top this year. And I don't discount additions like Adalba. I don't discount additions like Star coming back, because I think those guys are going to play with the rotation that they have. And a guy like Daryl Johnson, I don't think he's going to get cut. He plays a lot of special team snap for them. He's still young, and you forget about the special teams. He plays a lot, and you got to have that on game day. Epinesa played like a couple of snaps on special teams, but is Basham going to play special teams? Ruseo, maybe on kick block units, something like that, but they're not going to be running up and down, running down punts, gunning punts. They're going to be on the field with their hand in the ground, going after the quarterback. And I just look at it, and I think the odd man out is Jerry Hughes. I just think Jerry Hughes is going to be the odd man out and not because of age, because Addison's a year older once the season starts. So I just think there's a little bit of a production dip. I think there is, the money. They redid Addison's deal, and they save more if they release Hughes. And maybe that's the difference. Yeah, they raised the tickets. It's going to be they raised the prices. Of course, the team successfully raised the prices, and you're going to get fans back in the building. I didn't look at the cost yet, but I'm sure it's exorbitant. But they have a winning product now. It's kind of crazy how I was watching a Bills game where 09, terrible game, they lost, but the fans were just so crazy and rabid, and it really sucks that the fans weren't in the stadium for such a great season like last year, but they're going to get to be there for this year. That's exciting, and they're going to be sold out. Hopefully, maybe Eric, you can get on the secondary market. I don't know. I just see Hughes. I think he's a speed rusher who gets swallowed up, and I just look at them sack numbers. 18 sacks. That's a huge number, and both those guys likely to be moved on from this year at the end of this year. I just think that Addison is the veteran guy, because Bean just went he went a lot in depth about talking about Addison when he was like, oh, of course the question was asked, oh, where does that stand with Addison's place on this roster right after the draft? He said he called him, talked about mentoring those guys, was excited. Addison played a lot more pass downs or run downs. He played a lot more downs than he was normally used to. Didn't play as many pass downs, or he was more tired for those downs. Something like that. He just really went in depth, and I'm like, he really expanded upon that more than he needed to. And I just think you look at the history of Carolina, Eric Washington, Bean, McDermott. They want to get these contract extensions done with Allen and Edmonds. Everybody, of course, is like, oh, Zach Ertz, Julio Jones. Honestly, I don't want Ertz as much as I thought I did. I'd much rather see what Dawson Knox and Tommy Sweeney have to offer as a tandem. They're young, they're affordable. I just seen Ertz's body. I think he's on the back nine. And he looked slow. He looked labored ever since he severed his spleen, I believe, in that playoff game. No, it was a game against Dallas. He just does not look like the same guy anymore. Yeah, 240 sounds about right. That's about right. I mean, if that's I would wait a little more. I would wait a little more, see if you can catch somebody late. Catch him on the downside, maybe desperate to get rid of them, but it all depends. It all depends. Hopefully you'll get in there and get to see the opener. But I just think the Bills are going to get caught in a numbers game. How many defensive linemen are they going to keep? 9, 10? I think more likely 9. 5 DNs, 4 D tackles. There's certain guys that are just going to make this roster, like Ed Oliver, Ruseo, Basham, Epinesa, Star, and then the rest. I think it's going to be, I think Bam Johnson will make the roster, so that's 6. maybe his special teams, snaps get taken by like a Tyrell Adams, maybe. I don't know. But I just see that they're really going to, have a numbers crunch and a snaps crunch. And you're not going to keep Jerry Hughes, only play him, what, 20% of the snaps at that price tag. I think you just, you save the money, you move on early, you allow him to go find a place that's better suited for him at this point in his career. I just don't think it would make sense to keep him if you're going to try to get Rousseau, Basham, Epinesa as many snaps as possible and as much playing time as possible. Because I think that's where the real key to this team is. If that unit can take a jump, if that unit can become the catalyst for the defense, keeping the linebackers clean, just disrupting the quarterback. It's not even so much about sacks. It's about just make the quarterback throw the ball away, tipping passes, batted passes, making the quarterback make throws that he doesn't want to make because he has hands in his face. And yeah, of course, definitely sacks, definitely sacks. But I think that those other plays play into it just as much, if not more, because getting gashed in the run game to me is just I hate it and I don't like it. And this unit has had that a little too much. And I just think all the players that they've brought in needs to solve that puzzle for them. Remember last year, the first game of last year, they lose both their starting linebackers week 1 before halftime. Milano's out, Edmonds is out. It takes them literally till when? Week 10 before the defense starts to look at least a little bit like it did in 18 and 19, resemble what it looked like in 19. It really kind of found its legs once they got healthy. Milano found a sweet spot with the rotation a little bit. Thank God for AJ Klein coming in and settling it down. But still, it's gonna be really, really interesting to see where they end up with the numbers on the defensive line, because I'm really perplexed about how they're going to work that. Because it's so important and vital. There's so much money tied into that line. There's so many draft picks tied into that line. Free agency. They have to get it right. They really, really do have to get it right. And it's not so much what Tampa did to KC. It's what the Bills themselves haven't done in the last 2 years, which is get to the quarterback enough, and when they do, get him to the ground, disrupt the quarterback enough. I mean, I was talking to a few friends of mine, Bills fans, fellow Bills fans, and he was talking about that Colts game. It's like they could not. And granted, the Colts have a very good offensive line, but you got to do something at some point, and they just could not get near Phillip Rivers that day. I mean, and Phillip Rivers is a statue. And Phillip Rivers, I mean, he was getting rid of the ball fast, and I think he left it all out on the field because he knew that was his last game, and he played like it. I just feel like it was very, very frustrating watching that game, because it was like, this guy is not – you have to be able to make him move. If you even make him move, you won the down. That was a real frustrating. And then obviously, the other quarterbacks you're going to face in the NFL are all mobile now. They can all move at some level, so they're not going to be facing guys. That's the rarity now. Facing guys like Phillip Rivers is not the not the norm anymore. You don't face quarterbacks like that all the time. You face mostly guys who can move around, scramble, make plays on broken plays, off schedule plays, design plays that have the quarterback move. Hence the defensive line investment. They have to be athletic. They have to be long. Mac Jones. Okay, there's a good example. Mac Jones. He's going to be a guy he's a little bit better athlete than Phillip Rivers, though. A little bit better. I'll give him that. He's a little bit better. Phillip Rivers could never run, but yeah, Mac Jones is definitely. Wow, that we just don't see that much anymore, and I don't think it's ever going to truly go back to that. But setting the edge, defending the run, making teams one-dimensional. And with this offense, you get up on teams and then allowing that pass rush to go. Because, again, The KC Tampa game, everybody wants to use that as the springboard to say why the Bills did what they did, maybe just a little bit, but I think it's what the Bills didn't do themselves in the last 2 to 3 years, maybe even 4 years since Bean and McDermott have been here. They just haven't had a really, even upper echelon defensive line. Middle, let's just say average at best. When they played good, it needs to be a lot better, a lot better. The Jets have improved their offensive line. The Dolphins, they've made offensive line investments. Their running back situation is still not good. Tua is still their quarterback, so I'm not too worried about them. The Patriots are always, dangerous, even though I don't think that their quarterback situation is solved yet. Their wide receiver situation is not solved yet. They've spent a lot of money, but it's kind of weird money. A lot of tight ends. Trying to recapture Gronk and Hernandez, but I don't think you're doing it with those two guys. There's no Tom Brady. They got back Van Noy, Matt Judon. They brought in a lot of guys, but again, I just don't see where the quarterback play for them is really gonna get much better. I mean, I don't think it can't not, because how many touchdown passes did Cam Newton have? He had under 10. So you should be able to get 10 touchdown passes by accident in today's league. By accident. I honestly think he'll probably not be playing for them past week 4. I think it'll be Mac Jones. So there's a guy that you have to get on the ground. There's no way you should not be getting him on the ground. Zach Wilson, more mobile, two passing touchdowns. He had 2. I think it was a little more than that, Eric. I think he has a little more than that. Let me see. I have to check. But what springboarded this video was more so 8 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. That is very, very rare. Under 3,000 yards. Extremely rare for a quarterback to be able to start as much as he did and not get, I granted, I know they didn't have a lot of wide receivers that were good, tight ends, whatever. They had a lot of issues, but wow, that is nothing. I think Josh Allen had that same amount of touchdowns, had more touchdowns than that by week 3. That's insane. Yeah, it's extremely low, man. I remember some quarterbacks back in the 80s getting away with that shit, but not now. But what really springboarded this video was, just the media asking a lot about the defensive line, the investment about the defensive line, just the conversations I've had with other Bills, some other friends that are Bills fans, and it's the unit of the season. Can this defensive line take a jump? Can they get better? And with the amount of investment, they have to. They absolutely have to. You find the quarterback, the offensive line is returning. Hopefully they'll all get to gel. They'll all get to play. Cody Ford's rocking a new number. The 2 young tackles that they drafted that are going to get a chance to be backups and swing tackle prospect types to start with. The defensive line is the unit now that has the biggest. I think those are. I think the money. Everybody talked about Ertz and Julio. I think it's for the extensions of Allen and Edmonds. I think it's for them. I don't think it has anything to do with maybe a guy. What's up, Dave? How you doing, bro? Barbarian. I think it had Damager. You changed it, man. You threw me off. Everybody speculated it was for Ertz. I would much rather see the Bills bring in Steve Nelson. You want to do something? Bring in another cornerback to this team. I need another corner. I love Dane Jackson. And I really root for Levi Wallace. He's such a whipping boy. It's hard not to root for him. He's held it down for going into, 4 seasons now? An undrafted free agent that's a limited athlete. I really respect the hell out of him, because it's been so easy to try to replace him, but he's battled, and they haven't really tried to replace him. But hearing about Dane Jackson being a different guy this year, and he played very confidently last year. When he was on the field, the Jets game, it kind of started in the other spots. I didn't notice him at all. And you know how it is with secondary players. If you don't notice them, they're kind of like offensive linemen. If you don't notice them, that means they're good. Kind of the reverse of every other position. If you don't notice them, they're good. But if you notice them, they're shit. But our defensive line is the key to it all. Getting Starr in the middle, in front of those linebackers, allowing Oliver to play the position he's supposed to play, free, clean, a lot more one-on-ones. Harrison Phillips not coming off ACL surgery. He looked a lot better in the last 4 to 5 games last year. And then all those ends, they need on average, I think they would need, for me personally, to be happy, 5 to 8 sacks from 4 of those ends. Basham, Epinesa, whoever they keep out of Hughes and Addison, and Rousseau. If they can get that many sacks out of those 4 guys, yeah, I would say 5 to 8. Hopefully on the higher end, because even if it's 7, that's 28 sacks just from your defensive ends alone. And then you don't have to. Yeah, I think him too. I think he's going to make the roster. I don't think he's going to make the I think he's going to make the roster. I don't know why. I just think he's going to. I think they brought him in. Again, him. If they can get 5 out of him, that's 30 right there from your defensive ends. That's what I would need. I think all of us would need to be like, okay, that's good. But if you can get one of these guys, just one, like Eric said, just one. Maybe it's Oliver, one of the ends, to be that double-digit guy, then it's like, okay. I personally think the guy that's going to make the biggest impact on this defensive line out of the rookies is Basham. I think Basham is going to be the guy that's going to just really, really be like, oh, shit. And he was drafted a lot lower than I thought he was going to go. I thought he was going to go in between 25 and 40, and he ended up going, down in the 60s. So he really fell to the Bills in a nice spot, and they bookend defensive ends, which is wow. That should tell us all we needed to know about where they thought that they were at that position. That really, really should have told us. And I think he is, like Eric, he's played a lot. I think he's ready to play. I don't think he needs a lot of reps. I think he can go in there and play inside, outside, and he just looks like he just does not stop moving. He reminds me of Matthew Judon. Just his body type and his play style. He reminds me so much of him. And if he can be that kind of player, that's awesome. I would sign up for that. But hopefully that all comes to fruition. So thanks for sorry for the impromptu. I should really start scheduling stuff. I just do these random lives. I kind of just say, let me just open up the room and see who pops in, say hi to everyone, shoot the shit about the Bills. It's Friday. I know a lot of people are out. Just waiting for my girl to get off work soon. Go get her. And it just see who comes in. I should start scheduling something at least once a week, because there's a lot of stuff, going to start going on soon. We'll have that little dead period where the players will go away, but it's not going to be too long. They'll be back at One Bills Drive pretty soon. I mean, in July. So we'll have a ton of training camp stuff. So that should be fun. You always get those proverbial fear, scares, don't want to hear about nobody getting hurt or anything like that. Thankfully, we're not thinking about that right now. But hopefully with the way that they bring in players, that they're getting guys that are hungry, guys who know their role, are willing to just take a back seat and learn. And when their time is called, when their number is called, they're going to go out there and play. Remember, with Ed Oliver, a guy taken in the top 10, they sat him down a little bit in his rookie year. And so these guys really have to earn it. They're not going to hand it to nobody. If Adoba is a guy that's playing better than Rousseau, he'll play. If that's what I think that's the thing I like most about this group, is that we used to hear best players play. Doesn't matter where you were drafted. We all knew that was bullshit. We all knew that who's a guy that hung around forever just because he was drafted by the Bills, never did anything for him? Desmond Lewis was always on the practice squad, could never make the roster. Yeah, it was scary. It wasn't getting scary, Dave. It was scary, dude. Before he started making plays for them, I was like, what the hell happened to this team? What happened to this defense? And then training camp matters. Fans matter. Our fans in particular matter. I would say there's probably 15 home fields in this league that truly, truly matter. And, I'm sorry, I'm going to sound like a homer. We're definitely in the top five of that. There is no way in hell that Bills fans are not in the top five of that group. There's no way. There's no way that the Bills fans aren't. Our fans matter that much. I can even I've watched every Bills game I've ever seen regular season on television, and I could tell even on television that it mattered, let alone what's like to be in the house for it. So that more so than any other thing, well, players playing obviously matters because we've seen bad football with fans in the stands, but I think with talent we have now, it's going to matter more. Yeah, I still do, man. I still do. It's hopefully it happens this year. I really hope it does because this is the time. This is your guys' time, man. I was a kid and I got to enjoy Kelly, but now you younger cats are gonna get your generation of. Whew, you don't have to hear about the '91 record-setting season offense, and we saw it last year, so you got to see it. We got to see what it really is supposed to look like instead of it happening to us. That Denver game resonated with me the most because how many times over the years can we remember we were all the Bills teams, doesn't matter which one you want to pick, we were that team. We had a young quarterback that we didn't know about, like Drew Lock, is for Denver. Hopefully, here's this young quarterback on the other side that's really putting it together and just looks good and he's lighting up the league. And their team is going to the playoffs and they just come in and curb stomp the hell out of the Bills. They just destroy the Bills. And it was finally us, was that young, exciting team with that good quarterback. The questions were answered. And I remember that game so well because it was like the Bills messed around a little bit. It should have been more than the final score, but it was like when they wanted to turn it on, they just turned it on and just ended it. And I remember the Bills being that team so many times. And that game for me it's so nice to look back and watch that game. I have it on the DVR, and that was the moment where I feel like this team really just like, you know what, we're here, and we're here to stay for a really long time. We're here to stay for a while, and that was a breath of fresh air. It's like next season, for example, every week on Saturday night, I should say, Saturday night to Sunday morning, when you go to bed to when you wake up, you're going to feel that excitement. Why? Because we're going to feel we can win this week. It's like we expect to win this week. Like you're going to see something special on that field come 1:00. That's it. That's what it's all about. It makes you feel like a little kid. But guys, I'm going to jump off here. Thanks so much. It was just a quick one. I should start scheduling something. I really should. I don't know what you guys would want to do midweek, late week, weekend, because it's really all about you guys more so than me. I tried to do something here, but it said I needed 1,000 followers to do it. So, but I'm not going to pander for followers and beg, like some guys. I mean, if you like, you subscribe, you like it. Have a good one, Eric. Appreciate it. But thank you guys so much for jumping in. I know it was a quick video, but to me, again, guys, the defensive line is the key to it all. The investment across the board dictates that and reflects that they know that. And I just want to, leave in the comments after, who do you feel like is going to make the biggest impact and why? And who do you think the odd man out is? Addison, Hughes. To me, I think it's Hughes just because of money and just sack production. Not so much overall, but it's sack production. That's 18 sacks more for Addison in the last 5 years. That's huge. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. I appreciate it, Steve. I mean, you guys coming in is enough for me, man. You guys are great. Fucking Friday, 7:00. You guys jumping in just to see my dumbass. That's all I need. Thanks, bro. But yeah, I want to hear what you guys think about that because I think there's going to be a surprise And I still think they're going to add another big body in the middle of the defense. I don't think that they're just going to rely on Star. I think they're going to add another player in there at some point just to have in case of anything, because they don't want to get caught out like that again. Have a good one, guys. Happy Friday. Go Bills. Good seeing the team back on the field. Love the white face masks. It looks really, really nice. And I can't wait to see a full house at Highmark Stadium this season. Peace.